If you're like me and think that it might just be a great idea to take a 40-year-old vehicle on a 2,000-mile road trip across the country and hope that it survives, I got a video for you, because today we're going to talk about all the stuff that I'm bringing to make sure that this old girl doesn't leave me stranded on the side of the road, and making sure that I don't leave it stranded on the side of the road either. Howdy folks, Ed here. Welcome back to Bullnose Garage, and this is the vehicle that I'm taking on the 2026 Poverty Tour this year, coming up in just about a week. This is my 1982 Ford Bronco, and I have been working hard weekends on this thing for about 4 months. I think I've touched damn near every gasket, all of the brake system. I've repainted a bunch of stuff, gone through the drivetrain, gone through the suspension, gone through the engine, gone through all the fluids. I've done all kinds of stuff to it. Steering, man, interior. And I think I did a pretty good job, but let's be honest, I'm not a mechanic, and it's still 40 years old. That is what all of this stuff is, just in case something happens. So let me go through with you all the stuff that I'm going to bring, why I'm going to bring it, and why you might want to bring some of this stuff, or all of this stuff, or more than this stuff on your own 2,000 plus mile road trip across the country with an old vehicle. Stick around. So let's start with the biggest thing that I'm bringing, obviously, other than the Bronco. And that is this. This is my 2015 F-150, and it is the family comfort vehicle and my recovery option if things really go south. Now, you may not have the luxury of having a family come with you, or having a means to drag a big old vehicle like a Bronco home using a truck like that, but I do. So that lady's definitely coming with me. As you can see, I got my CB all hooked up and ready to go, and good for Poverty Tour. I highly recommend having a CB in an old vehicle, even if you're not going on a big tour like Poverty Tour, because it's just one more way to reach out just in case. Other than that, my family is going to be driving in comfort while I'm driving in the non-air conditioned Bronco. But that'll be nice for them, and it also allows us to bring along some extra home comfort, tent, sleeping bags, all the kind of amenities, because the Bronco is going to be loaded down with all the stuff I'm about to show you. Now, I'm starting with the big stuff first because I want to get it out of the way. I added these tow points to the frame horns on the Bronco, again, just in case. I think they turned out nice. They look good. These actually are for a Tacoma, I think. Found them from Amazon, did some modification to my bumper to get them on here, but they look pretty stock, and they work really well. I've done some test drives with it. I've got this flat tow bar, and the whole point of this is that if I break down on the side of the road, I can hook this thing up to the back of my F-150, and I can tow it all the way home. I don't have to rent a trailer. I don't have to worry about getting a tow truck. I don't have to worry about trying to figure out some way to do tow chains or a tow strap or something on the side of the road while I got traffic going by. I just literally hook this guy up, back up the truck, and away I go, just like I'm towing him with an RV. I've done some highway tests with it, and it works great. So I got no worries there. And when you're bringing your family along for the ride, having a setup with as little worry as possible is good for less stress. So I'm really happy I did this. Again, I think it looks nice anyway, and it's a great setup for what I'm doing. If you guys are curious how I set this up, let me know. I'll do a video on it. But for right now, just it's enough to know that I got a flat tow bar that'll be going in the F-150, and just in case I need it, I've got it. Now, luckily for me, this is a 4-wheel drive, so I just put the transfer case in neutral and away we go. Some other times, depending if you got a 2-wheel drive, you may have to disconnect the drive shaft and do some of that stuff. But again, even that's not that hard. But in my case, it's super simple. Now, I don't really have this stuff laid out in any particular order, and I'm not going to go through it in any particular order. This is not what's most important to least important or anything like that. We'll get through some of the obvious stuff first. So obviously, you want to have a spare. Do not leave home without a spare tire. I mean, you know, I should have to tell you that, but some people. So yeah, make sure you got a spare, make sure it's aired up, make sure it's in decent condition. This is a really old tire and there's not a whole lot of tread left on it, but it'll get me down the road if I have to. Got myself a jack. A real simple bottle jack, beats the hell out of a scissor jack. And this will make it real easy to get up off the ground. If I'm out on the side of the road somewhere, 4-ton jack is plenty for the Bronco. Make sure that you have whatever you need to get your wheels off. Right now, this is a socket for my anti-theft lug nuts, and this is a 1-inch for my 45-degree conical seat racing lugs that I had to put on my Bassett wheels. So in my case, I've got to have this 1-inch socket for my lugs. Make sure you're picking whatever socket you need for yours, or I mean, just go out and get a tire iron. Should have it. But in my case, I got those two specialties, so I got to make sure that I have those. Along with that, breaker bar, because yeah, if I got them on tight enough, I'm gonna need a breaker bar to get them off. And that's all there is to it. Now, there's a few other times you might need a breaker bar on the road, although generally, if you need something that requires a breaker bar on the side of the road, you're probably getting towed somewhere anyway, but it's always good to have along. Next on the list, decent socket set. So here's a nice impact set that I've got with a couple of extensions. Here's a set that I've had. Actually, it's a complete toolkit that I've had since I was in high school. This just kind of goes with me wherever I go and whatever vehicle I'm in, so I bring it along. But it's got a set of sockets, some bits, general wrenches and stuff. You know, just a basic toolkit can get you quite a ways. And then for my case, I'm bringing two socket wrenches, a big one and a small one just to have. This is probably overkill, but I've got the room for it. Next on the list of fairly obvious things are some jumper cables and a jump pack. Now this jump pack happens to double as an air compressor, although in my case, I actually have an onboard air compressor in the F-150 over there, so that's what I would be using with this guy here in case I have a flat tire or need to air anybody else up who happens to be going on the tour. So yeah, you always want to have some kind of a jump pack or jumper cables. I have found that jump packs are not too bad, but a good jump from another vehicle is always a much better option in terms of speed to recovery. I cannot overstate this. Bring a light. In my case, I will be bringing a headlamp, at least one, probably like 3. And these little guys, I love these. You can get them from Amazon. I got this one years ago from Harbor Freight, but yeah, they sit, they magnetize, they move around, give you all kinds of light. They're USB chargeable. These guys are fantastic. They're nice and bright. I've got 2 or 3 of them that I'll be taking. You just can't have enough light. There's nothing more frustrating than being on the side of the road in the dark and not being able to see what you're doing. So yeah, I mean, lights are relatively cheap, really good LED ones especially, so make sure to bring a few. Caveman tools, a pry bar, and some hammers. You never know when you're gonna have to do a little bit of percussive maintenance. And I like having options, so I always wanna have a rubber mallet just in case my percussion doesn't have to be quite so hard. But if I do have to get serious, having a good old claw hammer is, yeah, it's just nice to have around. And the pry bar, this one's not very big, but you know, there are some times where you may want to move something out of the way or try to move something into position if you're working on engine parts or suspension parts, that kind of stuff. Again, you know, a lot of the kind of stuff that could break is stuff that you're not going to fix on the side of the road. But some of the stuff that I'm bringing is for fixing in a motel parking lot. When I may have some more time, maybe I got some friends, it's always good to have a few extra tools. So this does not take up much space and it's coming with me. Here's what you might forget about, a strap wrench. This one is dead simple to use, and they are extremely handy, especially for things like oil filters that like to get stuck. And you can get an oil filter wrench or a rubber strap wrench, you know, but this one works pretty well and it's nice and compact. It, you know, fits in a nice small space. So that's what I got this for, just in case I gotta get an oil filter off or there's anything else that I gotta to wrench off there that didn't have a real good grip. These come in really handy. Another pretty simple choice, obvious, drill bits and some step bits. Step bits are a godsend, especially if you have really good ones, because you can start a smallish hole with a regular drill bit and then step it up to whatever size you need. If you find that you've got a part that's not quite fitting or something that's just not quite getting in there the way that you need to, stepper bits are amazing. I use them all the time, and I would not leave home without these, especially on a big long road trip. Of course, you got those. You got to have something to use them with, and this is a super simple, very small electric screwdriver drill kind of thing. Typically, I use this on the camper to raise and lower the jacks, but I'm taking it with me on the poverty tour because it'll work great as a roadside drill. If you need to drill into something or need to screw into something or whatever it happens to be, this is super great. It just plugs into a wall outlet if it needs charged. Next in the random list of junk, wheel chocks. Yeah, manual transmission, downhill, kind of suck. So if I get caught somewhere and I can't put it into drive, or I can't put it into gear, or my parking brake's not working correctly and I got to do some work on it or something, I want to make sure that you got some wheel chocks to keep the thing from rolling down the hill on you. You never know. We'll be going up through some mountains there in Utah and Colorado, so last thing I want to do is get stuck on the side of the road with my e-brake not quite tight enough. Everyone's favorite, JB Weld. This is self-explanatory. I got plastic weld and clear weld. That should cover me for basically anything that I need on this trip. JB Weld is a lifesaver. I highly recommend it. It's pretty cheap. Just get yourself a couple of packages of it and just keep it around. Along the same lines, I've got some Ultra Black gasket maker and some PermaShield gasket dressing. And both of these are fuel and oil resistant, so I can use them basically anywhere. It's a way to just sort of create a roadside gasket if I have to. I mean, you don't want to slather Ultra Black on everything because then it makes it, kind of hard to take apart later. But it should at least get you where you need to go if you're stuck on the side of the road with a leak that's being really pesky. Duct tape. My personal favorite, Gorilla Tape, but any brand will do. Pretty self-explanatory. Don't leave home without it. Also in the self-explanatory pile, zip ties. Lots of them, different sizes. Don't forget them. Very important. Here's something you might forget. Digital tire gauge. Now, you can use a manual tire gauge or an analog one, they're fine. But these are really great, they're really cheap, and they work fantastic. So this is my go-to. I can check the tires and I can check the air suspension in both my F-150 and the Bronco, because the Bronco's got one. Crazy, it came with it. Who knew? And it actually works. I verified that with this. Now for me, when I'm taking a road trip and could potentially have some issues, I want to make sure I always have my electronics kit with me, right? So this is my digital multimeter. Allows me to do any kind of electronic troubleshooting, 12-volt troubleshooting. And I've also got my little sort of travel electronics kit with some clippers and some alligator clips, electrical tape, and just a little box of connectors and that kind of stuff. This is just in case I need to make a real quick connection somewhere on the road to get me down until I can get a real decent connector, maybe at a truck stop or something somewhere. This is just a side of the road electronics kit, just in case. And along that same thread, don't forget some fuses. Now I'm taking this entire box of fuses because it's all different types. Really, I could get away with just like 2 or 3 of each of these. But, I got plenty of real estate and it's easier just to toss the whole box in my kit. So don't forget your fuses because you never know when you're going to blow a fuse in one of these old vehicles, and that would just be a terrible way to be stranded on the side of the road. In the same vein, hose clamps. Again, you never know when you're going to need to clamp a hose, and this is cheap insurance. I'm just taking the whole box. I got a bunch of different sizes in there. Also in the just in case department. Actually, all this stuff is really kind of just in case department, isn't it? Anyway, I got some self-tapping screws and some sheet metal screws. Between these two cases, I've got all different kinds of sizes, different options. If I need to screw something together, need to hold a dash piece together, need to hold a door panel on, keep it from flopping off. I got pieces falling off the side of the Bronco. Who knows, right? Hoses, vacuum and fuel. Realistically, you can pretty much use a fuel line for just about anything to get you out of a tight spot. I got one of each size that's typical on this truck. So yeah, just in case. Simple handheld fluid transfer pump. You never know, you're gonna have to siphon gas, siphon oil, pull oil out of a transfer case or put oil in a transfer case. Super cheap, super simple, takes up very little room. You really should have one of these in your emergency kit because transferring fluids is a thing that you might have to do. Gloves. And never leave home without some ratchet straps. You can tell that this set has been in my emergency toolkit for a long time. I've never had to use them. If I ever do, I've got them. Bring a tarp. They're cheap, take up very little space, and golly, you don't want to be crawling underneath your vehicle in the rain and the mud without something. If that happens to be a thing, or if you have to, maybe like a window blows out or something, big ass rock comes through and knocks a window out. There's all kinds of reasons to have a tarp. So yeah, get you one. So this is not my final iteration of this thing, but this is a general weather kit. It's got a poncho and that kind of stuff in there. It's just something that I always have with me. And then this is a really simple little first aid kit, a few bandages, some gauze, that kind of stuff. We're gonna be bringing a much larger first aid kit. It's like an actual, almost like a paramedic kit. That's because we're bringing the kids with us. So, God forbid something happens anywhere, and we just want to make sure that we're ready for that. So depending on your family size, your situation, where you're going, what you're doing, just have something, even if it's just a Band-Aid and some antibiotic ointment, whatever it happens to be. Like I said, I'm not showing our kit here because it's not complete yet. We're still working on it. But it's a great big bag that's got a bunch of stuff in it. That's what I would recommend if you've got room for it, just because, you never know what's going to happen. And if you don't have any first aid knowledge, I would highly recommend you get some. I'm not going to preach to you guys, but yeah, especially if you got a family. That's good stuff to have. I already mentioned a tarp, but these things are actually really handy. These are just party tablecloths from like Dollar General or Walmart. They're $1 a piece, guys. These are next to nothing. I use them for paint backdrops. I use them for crawling around on the ground, or actually every now and then I use them as a tablecloth. But you can use them for all kinds of stuff. And they're cheap, they're big, you can cut them into pieces and use them for covering just about anything. Again, like I said, if a window blows out, that'll get you down the road. So yeah, I would definitely grab a few of these, just a handful, and just have them around because, like I said, they're super cheap and very handy. Wire. Baling wire, mechanics wire, even some fence tie wire, which is actually what this is, right? Doesn't matter, as long as you can bend it by hand and cut it with some snips, it'll work. This is for stuff like tying things up. If you had to tow a two-wheel drive vehicle and take off the drive shaft, you got to tie that drive shaft up somehow, right? If your exhaust bracket breaks and you're dragging your muffler, tie it up. You got something horribly catastrophic happen somewhere in your suspension and you got to limp it to the next town. Well, sometimes just getting you there with enough wire can do it. Now, you're not going to want to drive 60 miles an hour down the road like that, but to get you to the next town over, yeah, sometimes you do what you got to do. Safety, goggles, clear, and shades. Now I'm going to show you guys these because I am a big fan. These are called cooling arm sleeves, and they're an alternative to sunscreen. Okay, now I'll definitely be using sunscreen because I don't want to burn, and I burn pretty easy. But when you're driving down the road with your arm out the window, This is way better than sunscreen. I gotta get it on here. There we go. Making a fashion statement and protecting my my little white guy arm from the damages of the sun. Now, I haven't tested this, but I would be willing to bet that in a pinch, this could potentially be used as a belt. Now, I'm not talking about the kind that goes around your waist. I haven't tested that. That's a assumption. But I'll bet in terms of getting you to the next town, might work out. Now we get to the next obvious thing, which is just tools. Bring your favorite tools. Make sure you got some vice grips, you got screwdrivers, you got some wrenches, you know, a knife, box cutter, that kind of stuff is good. Side cutters, pliers, tape measure, Allen wrenches, brushes. Oh, I got channel lock, crescent wrench, scraper in here, a pair of scissors, I got a file, bungees, ruler, just in case you gotta measure something, some socket adapters or whatever. You know, there's all kinds of stuff. Just bring whatever kind of spare tools you can fit in your toolbox. And then last and certainly not least is the messy stuff. And that is my box of fluids. I've got a full gallon of oil. I've got some .3. I've got some transmission fluid type F because that's what I need. I've got some ATF, brake clean. I've got some starter fluid. Oh, more starter fluid because, you know, a funnel, microfiber cloths or cleaning rags. You know, that way you can just check all your fluids and make sure that you're good to go. I would recommend taking one type of each fluid your vehicle is going to have, maybe with the exception of transmission fluid or differential fluid, that kind of stuff, although that probably wouldn't be a bad idea. I may throw some gear oil in mine. I don't have it in there right now, but I probably could for my diff. If something terrible happens and you leak all your fluid out, and you've got gasket maker and you can make a gasket that'll hold, but you got no fluid to put back in there, you're kind of stuck anyway. And then gas. This is going to ride in the back of the Bronco with me, and that's why I'm using this this plastic jug, one of these newer ones. I also have this guy here, who's also full of fuel, but I don't trust this on the inside of the Bronco because it's got a weep hole in the top there for expansion. And if it sloshes around too much, then the fuel will come out. And I just don't feel like dealing with that inside of the Bronco. It's also not exactly safe. So I'll be leaving this here for this trip. But eventually I want to build a bracket for the back of the Bronco that will hold this on the outside. So it's not that big of a deal. But for this trip, I'll be taking this guy. And I don't think that the temperatures will be high enough that I have to worry about it popping the canister or anything like that. I can leave it cracked if I have to. That is my kit, and I'm still putting it together. I may have a few things that I'm going to add over the course of the next few days, but basically that's what I'm going to be going with. And I know it seems like a ton of stuff, but really, once this is all packed up into a couple of toolboxes and a box of fluids, it's not going to take up that much room. So, and I've got the entire F-150 over there to carry some of this stuff too. And I'm sure there's stuff that I forgot. For example, I'm not bringing a tire repair kit. I've got a spare. So I'm not too worried about a tire repair kit. I cannot imagine that I'm going to be far enough away from a discount tire I can't put the spare on and get where I got to go. And if they can't fix it, then I guess I get a new tire and it doesn't matter anyway. And to be fair, because this is Poverty Tour, a lot of the stuff that I'm bringing, I'm also bringing just in case someone else has an issue and I might be able to help them out. I mean, I don't know. Look, I've said this 1,000 times before. I'm not a mechanic. You know, so if someone breaks down on the side of the road with a 1967 Pontiac, I have a basic understanding of mechanics and know how things work, but I'm not going to really be able to, you know, I could be a hold a flashlight kind of guy for them, provided they know what they're doing. But if I've got a tool that they need, I will happily let them borrow it. And if I can save somebody's day that way, then that makes the whole trip worth it for me. I mean, yeah, it's worth it for me anyway, because we're going to have a lot of fun. But I would much rather bring a bunch of stuff and not need it, you know, the old saying, than need it and not have it. Drop me a line and let me know if you think I forgot something. If you guys are going on poverty tour, it's just in a couple of days after this video drops. Let me know if you're back from poverty tour, if you had a good time, and how things went for you. Hopefully, like I said, I can just pack all this stuff up and it never moves. It just stays in the same place I kept it the entire trip. That would be so nice. Hopefully, it's not wishful thinking. If you guys are going on poverty tour, or you're taking an old Ford on a 2,000-mile road trip, no matter where your life's journey takes you, I hope that this video was helpful. I hope you learned something. If so, give me a like, give me a subscribe. It really does help me out. And as always, thanks again so much for watching, guys, and we will see you next time.
She's rough around the edges, but she's doing fine. Tinkering away, getting things to shine. At Bullnose garage, she's considered divine. Thanks again for watching. We will see you next time.